Engage in introspection and begin to embrace authenticity. Candid regarding the fury you have concealed beneath your tranquility is a candid reflection of the sorrow concealed within. Underneath your profound understanding, candid regarding the solitude that continues to reside within you, fortitude, for that is the essence of your being exists presently in the realm of truth. And when you engage with it, as you articulate, the suffering commences to yield, not vanish, but gentle transformation akin to winter gradually yielding to the frost of spring, yielding to the earth, as if quietude is reawakening from that soil. Something will undoubtedly emerge. Neither a novel persona nor an act, rather a truth that resonates with the essence of healing. Does not occur when one perceives themselves as prepared. Occurs when one's essence determines the appropriate moment to return not to the person you once were, but to the essence of who you seem to have overlooked the fact that scheduling is not within your purview. One cannot impose their will. It simply does not work that way. To transcend the discomfort by deeming it sacred, you encounter it in its true form, fully aware and observant, breath quivering, devoid of any protection. And that meeting is where the profound work commences. This is not a restoration you execute for the approval of others. It is not a matter of. One can encapsulate the transformation in a before and after, envision a scenario where it is not an experience meant for communal sharing. Captions it is subtly chaotic, hidden from view, and yet it transforms the entirety of the situation as it is fundamentally accurate. Healing does not enhance one's stature. It enhances your honesty by removing superficial layers. All that was merely for show, even the manner in which you previously executed the process of healing, it reveals every instance where you applied your intellect as a facial covering every location where you employed tranquility as a means to circumvent hostility. In every location, you utilize forgiveness as a means to evade emotional experience, the experience of your suffering. And through that revelation, you commence to experience humanity once more. Devoid of any sense of elevation, illuminated yet profoundly human, in the most transcendent sense, the essence of what it means to be fully human is not a constraint. It is a revered accomplishment due to the reluctance of the ego. To exist as a human is to aspire to uniqueness. Exceptionally remarkable. Yet the essence remains the essence, yearns for completeness and unity. Encompasses all that you have previously encountered, dismissed along with the anguish it entailed. It is noted that Carl Jung remarked, "One does not attain a deeper understanding through the contemplation of forms of illumination, yet through the creation of obscurity aware." Furthermore, your obscurity is not merely a shadow. It embodies sorrow and evokes longing. It encompasses all the unfulfilled requirements that pertain to the spiritual realm. Overcoming attempts to obliterate through affirmations and vision boards. However, healing cannot be achieved through transcending into illumination. You find restoration through the act of ambulation. Return to your physical form, the one that embraced all your unexpressed realities. You mend through attending to the sorrow that remains indifferent. The manner in which you articulate your healing process is quite profound. Allowing the youthful spirit to express itself in a fervent manner, the mature iteration of oneself learns to restrain. One achieves healing through the process of attaining a sufficient sense of Hulan. Embrace the paradox of weeping and experiencing emotion, resilient in sorrow and anchored in existence, apprehensive yet resolute in the pursuit of experience, fractured yet still possess a sense of belonging. This pertains to the concept of arrival, yet fundamentally revolves around the notion of permitting. Permitting oneself to cease the facade that realization rendered you unstoppable, permitting oneself to acknowledge that lucidity at times, it evokes a sense of void. Permitting oneself to engage with the rawness, not as an issue to be addressed, but as an existence to encounter. Due to a certain factor within that unrefined essence resides a vibrant existence. an ancient concept that you have rendered mute each instance you pretended to be well, and when you ultimately encounter it devoid of shame, with a sense of caution, yet with deep respect you understand that you're not merely restoring, that the discomfort accompanying your awakening signifies a process of healing. The persistent discomfort that lingered the awakening merely unveiled it. The void, the sorrow, the absence of identity, none of this is novel. It has merely been obscured, encoded, transmitted from your formative years, from your forebears, from the collective narratives passed down to you regarding what it signifies a state of deserving. And at this moment, you embody that quality, dismantling the enchantment in which you find yourself the nucleus of your own mental tempest. And I shall henceforth refrain from neglecting my own well-being, neither to be appreciated nor comprehended, even to facilitate a more expedited healing process. Because genuine healing transcends the notion of speed, it is fundamentally about profoundly. It involves establishing a deep connection with one's own veracity that even the void transforms into a companion, an educator, a sacred realm, and within that realm, you cease your attempts to transform into a different version of yourself as you begin to recall who you were prior to the world's influence, who one ought to be, and the act of recalling it does not consistently evoke a sense of joy at times. It manifests as a profound intensity of emotion. At times, it resembles the experience of grief. In the absence of any external influences, you continue to exist as your true self. Continue to breathe. You're gradually becoming more gentle. Continue to present oneself not in an attempt to alleviate the suffering, but to embrace the one who suffers. That is, the essence of healing commences not within the narrative, nor in the concept manifested within the physical form and the act of respiration at the instant you cease to engage in performance and begin to observe your entirety. Cease to hold back. Inquiring about the conclusion of this situation and your involvement, begin inquiring about the lessons this experience imparts. The responses are nuanced, yet they exist there in the manner your shoulders commence to decrease, in the manner in which your respiration commences to immerse, in the manner in which your voice begins to quiver in anticipation. For it has indeed become tangible once more, and perhaps for the inaugural occasion in the course of existence. One comes to understand that one's identity is distinct from the suffering experienced. You possess the capacity to maintain it. Indeed, you do. It is not your narrative. Rather, you embody the very essence of the space it occupies. Unfolds within you are not the injury, you are the healer that emerged from it, and that marks the commencement of a restorative process that is perpetual, not due to its imperfect yet vibrant the PR. Obsessive healing is not a destination to be reached. It embodies a cadence, a helix, a revered essence, disentangling and recalling once more. At the moment when one believes they have arrived at the center, an additional layer emerges, though it does not seem to impose consequences upon you, yet simultaneously to unveil your true essence and to summon you forth even nearer to the essence of your being, the location at which your scars cease to exist mysteries and begin to embody representa. Tie-ins for pain is not intended to shape you endure eternally. It is intended to shape your being. Aware of the patterns you inherited, awareness of the narratives you fully engaged, and aware of the commitments you crafted in quietude merely to endure, and here you find yourself, conscious and in pain, yet not overwhelmed, due to your fractured state, but rather because you are ultimately experiencing what the previous iteration your resolve was insufficient to maintain. That is an aspect often overlooked. Healing requires a profound resilience to endure pain, truly lacking the fortitude to conceal it, the capacity to divert attention from it, yet the fortitude to allow it to pass through you, allow it to gently influence you without consuming your essence, to allow it to transform you without imposing a definition. This is the realm of genuine spirituality. True maturity does not stem from the extent of one's knowledge. Yet in the manner of your delicate grasp upon that, which remains a state of disarray, as you commence to acknowledge the suffering that accompanies your enlightenment is not merely a matter to be endured. It is an entity to cultivate companionship with gradually, not within a grand cinematic moment of the gradual ascent toward the higher state of being. Approached with gentleness and sincerity upon awakening one morning, you observe you exhibit a remarkable willingness to confront your own sorrow. You no longer hasten to flee your anger, is no longer something you suppress. Isolation accompanied by superficial interactions you allow these aspects of your being to coexist. You permit. Their discourse unfolds, and in this process, you transform. The entirety remains unhealed, as Carl Jung elucidated. The objective of the individuation engage in the evolution of the spiritual development of the psyche embodies not perfection, but rather a state of wholeness. It represents the synthesis of all that has divided within you. The illumination and the shadow of the child and the adult, the fury and the absolution, the masculine and the feminine as expressions of the divine and the profoundly human, and as they commence to engage not in abstraction, but in your experiential reality, encountering certain experiences can lead to a profound transformation, prompting one to pause and reflect. In the pursuit of enlightenment, one embarks on a journey of self-discovery. As you evolve, you start to place your confidence into the wisdom inherent in your own recovery, begin to comprehend that suffering is not the antithesis of advancement, is, in fact, advancement as you consistently embrace the discomfort rather than forsaking your own essence. You reclaim an aspect of your essence with each instance one inhales amidst the void rather than inundating it with discordant sounds. You create an environment for the profound each time you, this is painful, yet I shall remain. Transform into an individual who embraces courage of the obscured and that which embodies strength not. The type employed to exert influence over others, yet the type that renders you steadfast in a reality constructed from deception. As you now perceive, do not flee from the emptiness that envelopes you if you light a candle there. It is referred to as such. The home and its inhabitants will be observed, not due to your volume is greater, yet it emanates from a more profound source. Your presence transforms you. You are no longer in need. There is no longer a necessity for you to elucidate your position. To achieve understanding, one must forego negotiation. Your value is evident as you enter spaces. In an alternative manner, you occupy space devoid of regrettably. You express a refusal devoid of remorse. Articulate your perspective not for affirmation, but for alignment. As the process of healing has facilitated your integrity and commitment to truth have liberated you, and you will continue to experience pain. You will still shed tears. There will inevitably be individuals who are unable to meet the required standards. You are present, yet you will not lose your essence no longer. And that represents the utmost significance, the restoration of all, not merely the world transformed. Yet the anguish remained, yet you have ultimately ceased your pattern of neglect. The singular aspect of utmost importance is the self. Underneath the narrative lies the essence of what once was never shattered. Merely concealed, merely muted, merely awaiting your consent to return, and now that it has upon returning, everything seems altered in a profound way. More straightforward, not less complex, but more authentic, and that truth, regardless of its rawness or imperfections, transpires as your journey. Requiring no visual confirmation, the entire path ahead requires merely that you proceed with the forthcoming sincere action to articulate an aspect you have been neglecting to address during your periods of rest. Society dictates that one must generate output in order to experience emotion. When your intuition urges you to withdraw, to have faith that this suffering serves a meaningful function, even if you are unable to articulate it at this moment, due to the anguish accompanying your enlightenment is not merely concerning what is unfolding what is endeavoring to emerge. What is striving? To be born does not constitute a novel identity. Rather, it is not an enhanced iteration of oneself. Indeed, an individual of superior understanding or greater awareness, or what is emerging is the essence of the self, the authentic self, the complete self, the raw, unrefined, invulnerable you, the individual who fails to execute the task, that does not implore the one, that does not strive for the restoration of the individual, that recalls the quietude, the entity that comprehends the distinction between peace and avoidance, the entity that requires no elevation anguish, for it understands that suffering is not the disconnection of the adversary is occurring, and presently you find yourself in this situation, re-established a connection to your sorrow and your physical being, to your understanding, to your deity, not as existing in the atmosphere, yet embodying. A serene rhythm within your chest that has never ceased pulsating even in the absence of sound. There is no necessity for external affirmation regarding your healing process. You perceive it not as ecstasy, but as the essence of existence manifests as you traverse with deliberate pace. Inhaling with intention, the more profound your responses, the less swiftly you engage. Weep when the tears ascend, unreservedly. One finds delight in the resurgence of happiness, requiring a rationale for your transformation, sovereign within your essence. This is what the experience of pain was guiding you away from a sense of control existence. Yet engagement with it remains absent confidence. Yet faith, rather than flawlessness existence, you ultimately ceased your efforts to return to the essence of your former self prior to the experience of suffering. It is now evident that the previous iteration of yourself was incomplete. The iteration of yourself was not liberated. That iteration, your existence, has been shaped by the imperative of survival. Yet this iteration emerges from a foundation of veracity. Truth does not raise its voice. It remains quietly resolute. It exists without pursuit. Simply being, it resides within you. Reflected in your manner of holding an opportunity for personal reflection in the manner you are familiar with, extend my apologies for your heightened sensitivity in the manner in which you safeguard. Your tranquility is not through barriers. Yet with a judicious approach, one may extend forgiveness while retaining the memory of one's identity. Exist in the manner you remain silently anchored in the wake of your own existential upheaval and opt to evolve regardless, for the reason that true healing transcends mere correction. What has caused you pain is fundamentally about the process of reclaiming the person who experienced pain is beckoning them back, attending to their words, embracing them, cherishing them with an intensity that conveys you need no longer feel the necessity to vanish. There is no need to conceal your pain. You are permitted to exist in this space precisely as you are. And at such a moment, as your healing unfolds, transforms into a gesture of belonging rather than the anguish of erasure undergoes a transformation. Ceasing to exist as it once did, it no longer defines you. It is merely a possession, merely integrates into your intricate composition rather than a section to bypass, yet a connection within the intricate fabric of your essence. A strand that conveys I was present, I experienced destruction, I fractured, I perceived it. All that I remained is what defines you. Genuine, not your accomplishments. Not your responses do not align with your spiritual dialect. Your presence reflects your willingness to persist. Commitment to the unadulterated essence of your experience that is healing not as a final goal, but as a method of existence. And at this moment, that method is accessible. There is no necessity to engage in conflict to achieve a complete sense of self. Are already complete in all your sorrow. The gentleness of your transformation is unnecessary. Establish your rightful position in this world. Your breath serves as a testament to your existence and place in the world. There is no longer a necessity to evade your suffering. It is not present to bring about your ruin. Rather, it exists for a different purpose, to unveil your essence. Permitted Allow the discomfort to exist. Let the silence be revered. Let be sanctified. Gradual restoration of one's identity should suffice, as that you are who you have always been. There exists a particular form of suffering that does not shout it remains and scathe it remains. The bruise merely exists, quietly residing within you, concealed behind the facade of a smile. Underneath the ceremonies within the section of it is evident that this subject remains largely untouched by others. Pain does not originate from the external world, arises from the experience of awakening to it. It emerges from the instant one comprehends that all the foundation upon which you constructed your identity was never genuinely yours. The pursuits you endeavored affection for achievement, acknowledgement, illumination were garments elegantly cascading over a spirit in serene contemplation, eager for recognition in the journey of spear. Etual enlightenment does not commence with bliss. It initiates with the kind of heartbreak that resonates, deeply divides your perception of reality into two distinct halves. Disintegrates the framework of all that exists. You believed you were that WH. It departs from you, gazing unadorned into the reflection of your essence, awareness captivated. Unable to avert their gaze, they never disclose this aspect. Rather, they inform you of other details. Awakening is a luminous phenomenon, embodying beauty in its essence. While it may seem tranquil, that is not the truth, does not reveal itself immediately, for awakening is a process. To mourn the years you have experienced slumber, to mourn the facades you don, to embrace the sorrow of your inner child. Muffled merely to attain acceptance, in mourning the reality you conceal for the sake of endurance. And this grief is a profound experience. It holds a sacred significance, yet it undeniably brings pain. The ache is palpable in manners that elude explanation due to it is not confined to a singular moment. It encompasses a broader existence. It is the rightful possession of all of them. A prolonged period of neglect you enacted in opposition to your own essence. The myriad of silence methods by which you denied your own desires merely to listen to another person affirm, Carl Jung once articulated, individuals will engage in any action, no regardless of how ludicrous it may seem, to evade confronting their individual spirits. And you did not evade it, you delved within, you ventured into the flames engulf you. And yet you find yourself ablaze. I am uncertain about the process of healing. For this is not the nature of the injury. The realm of medicine encompasses this particular aspect of an injury that was never intended to exist dulled. It was intended to undergo a metamorphosis. Transformation is not an instantaneous occurrence. Inhale. It unfolds that accompanies possessing all the solutions. Yet the tranquility that comes from no longer requiring them. The fifth, and it evokes a sense of transcendence. However, one must consider the inherent risks associated with the ego. It does not perish upon your awakening. Rather, undergoes evolution. It adorns itself in ceremonial garments. It articulates profound phrases. Jung posited that habitual deceivers do not merely mislead others. There's the ability to reference Rumi in Jung, and the Bhagavad Gita teaches the art of smiling, calmly observing while discreetly evaluating those who remain in slumber. It ceases, seeking validation, yet starts to desire acknowledgement as an individual who has transcended, desires anything, and if you are not, exercise caution, as you may find yourself convinced that you have surpassed the self when, in reality, you have simply veiled it in. This represents the ultimate examination of an emergence of genuine humility. The illness of midnight appears to be a decision to embrace isolation when one seemed to seek diversion. It appears softly articulating select manipulators who scrutinize their targets with the precision of a scientist examining specimens. They possess an acute awareness of which buttons to press, which aspirations to invoke, and which weaknesses to leverage. It has come to light that certain individuals perceive others not as fellow human beings, but rather as mere resources to be exploited. They may articulate visions of shared success, all the while covertly devising their own escape plans. The most unsettling aspect is that these individuals are frequently those who are nearest to you. The theatrical pursuer. Jung posited that certain individuals develop an addiction to chaos, as it is the sole moment they experience a genuine sense of vitality. He termed this phenomenon neurotic excitement dependency. However, Carl Jung's findings on those who seek drama reveal an overlooked truth. These individuals are not mere victims of chaos, rather than receiving. Carl Jung posited that those who take often emerge from a state of psychological deprivation, the essence of genuine spirituality. Maturity manifests as an absence of perfection, enduring tranquilly accompanied by profound war. Yet, herein lies a profound irony. Jung revealed that the more one offers, the more they seem to drain. They resemble psychological voids, absorbing all that surrounds them while contributing nothing in return. Individuals may express a sense of entrapment within their shadow selves, engaging in actions devoid of conscience and gratitude. The archetype of the manipulator, as delineated by Carl Jung, reveals a profound insight into human nature. Jung posits that manipulators seek not merely assistance, but rather a psychological capitulation. He identifies this behavior as stemming from what he terms the power complex, their own humanity. Similarly, an entrance, implying that the subject matter was of a nature they prefer to keep concealed. Jung acknowledged exclusion as a significant manifestation of social rejection, when an it is not beyond it, but rather within it. You return with a fresh perspective, yet the same essence. An active heart, a heart that has been ruptured and imbued with substance. A silent essence, an unwavering calm, an enduring affection that demands nothing and welcomes. There is no longer a necessity for you to demonstrate anything. You have awakened. Your existence attests to this reality. Your existence is evidenced by the manner in which you inhale and exhale. Through discord, the manner in which you articulate when. No one seems to be paying attention to the manner in which you're seated. Individuals experiencing suffering without the necessity for resolution. The manner in which you express joy and elves in the same pursuit, often equipped with costly tools or networks unavailable to you. Alternatively, they may echo your distinctive viewpoints to others, presenting them as their original insights, subtly implying that they can surpass your capabilities. Jung posits that this arises from a nuanced interplay of jealousy and a lack of confidence in one's identity, manifested through the appropriation of what distinguishes or elevates an individual. They seek to appropriate those attributes while undermining your individuality. Be vigilant if they exhibit a dismissive attitude towards the very elements they have appropriated from you, particularly in light of your ongoing success in those domains. This paradoxical conduct of imitating you while concurrently undermining the value of what has been appropriated distinctly indicates the presence of deeper negatives. Maintain a gentle disposition. Nurture your inquisitiveness and remain anchored in reality, the enigma, and allow your existence to transcend mere words can serve as the subtle transformation that initiates, transforming suffering into wisdom. However, it does not guarantee improvement, encourages and seek to enhance their conduct, whereas one harboring adverse sentiments may react defensively, reject accountability for their actions, or even attribute the issue to your perceived lack of engagement. Jung would interpret this as an implicit endeavor to assert dominance and manipulate the narrative. By interrupting, they are effectively conveying that your thoughts and perspectives hold less significance than their own, or perhaps are deemed entirely inconsequential. Sign 6. They reference your past mistakes. All individuals err. Yet a notable distinction exists between sporadically invoking pertinent historical occurrences and meticulously preserving a comprehensive record of one's shortcomings to be cited at opportune times. Jung recognized that our inclination to concentrate on the errors of others frequently unveils deeper insights into our own psychological condition. When an individual persistently references your past mistakes or moments of embarrassment, one comes to understand that one's identity is distinct from the suffering experienced. You possess the capacity to maintain it. Indeed, you do. It is not your narrative. Rather, you embody the very essence of the space it occupies. Unfolds within you are not the injury, you are the healer that emerged from it, and that marks the commencement of a restorative process that is perpetual, not due to its imperfect yet vibrant the PR. Obsessive healing is not a destination to be reached. It embodies a cadence, a helix, a revered essence, disentangling and recalling once more. At the moment when one believes they have arrived at the center, an additional layer emerges. You opted to embrace existence during a time of greater simplicity, to merely endure in that decision that. The choice is both awe-inspiring and daunting. What distinguishes you as not merely awakened, but the awakening continues to unfold, continuing to explore and uncover further insights. It is an unceasing journey. For the awakening on a spiritual level is not a subtle, yet in the manner of your delicate grasp upon that, which remains a state of process. A gentle zephyr or a tranquil dawn. It represents an earthquake represents a quiet yet profound collapse that originates from within and dismantles all that exists. You previously referred to as truth, you do not navigate smoothly. Into awakening, you are forcibly extracted from the. Envision a day when you find yourself effortlessly gliding through the ether. In light of the prevailing circumstances of the world and the subsequently, you find yourself breathless, standing still, motionless as the world persists around you. Initially, one might perceive that something is. What is amiss with you? Why does the world seem such overwhelming noise, so insincere, so detached? What is the reason behind this? The objects of your former affection now evoke. Why do those who are nearest to you feel your own essence? You reclaim an aspect of your essence with each instance one inhales amidst the void rather than inundating it with discordant sounds. You create an environment for the profound each time you. This is painful, yet I shall remain. Transform into an individual who embraces courage of the obscured and that which embodies strength not. The type employed to exert influence over others, yet the type that renders you steadfast in a reality constructed from deception. As you now perceive, do not flee from the emptiness that envelopes you if you light a candle there. It is referred to as such. The home and its inhabitants will be observed, not due to your volume is greater, yet it emanates from a more profound source. Your presence transforms you. You are no longer in need. There is no longer a necessity, as though you are being compelled by an invisible influence akin to a marionette whose threads are presently being guided by the essence rather than the self-interest. And the ego exhibits resistance. Explored extensively. Not all individuals who seek assistance genuinely desire it. Carl Jung posited that individuals don various masks, which he termed personas. Some of these personas are crafted with the intent to siphon energy from others. Today, I will elucidate the 8 psychological archetypes that Jung's research cautions us against. Remain engaged, for by the conclusion of this discourse, you will possess the insight to discern these dynamics with clarity. Type 1. The eternal victim, according to Carl Jung. Certain individuals find themselves ensnared in what he termed the victim archetype. These individuals have adopted suffering as a core aspect of their identity. However, there is an intriguing twist. Jung revealed that individuals often do not genuinely seek to flee from their suffering. Rather, these individuals seem perpetually ensnared in a state of crisis, perpetually immersed in a narrative of turmoil that is ostensibly never attributed to their own actions. One might assert that individuals find themselves ensnared in their own shadows, grappling with the darks from professional accomplishments to personal achievements, social media interactions, or even inconsequential issues such as parking spaces. They are disclosing an intrinsic desire to establish their own superiority. This behavior emerges when discussions invariably transform into chances for them to surpass your experiences. For instance, if you share a vacation anecdote, they promptly counter with elaborate accounts of their own more extravagant journey. When you bring up a challenge, they swiftly interject with a more significant issue they have triumphed over. They seem unable to permit you even a fleeting moment in the limelight. This arises from their view of you as a potential adversary rather than an ally. Each accomplishment or admirable trait you hold seems to overshadow others, fostering an unacknowledged compulsion to perpetually assert superiority, indications that they emulate your actions solely to surpass you. Although imitation may carry a sense of deception indefinitely, Jung posited that habitual deceivers do not merely mislead others. They engage in self-deception to such an extent that they become detached from reality. They construct what Jung referred to as false personas, entirely founded on fabrication, as per Carl Jung's insights. These individuals become so ensnared in their intricate fabrications that they can no longer discern reality from illusion. When one attempts to assist based on their narratives, the endeavor does not aid a genuine individual, but rather a construct of their own making. Jung elucidated that this particular form of psychological dysfunction is exceedingly challenging to remedy, as the individual must first confront reality, something they have conditioned themselves to evade. Type 5, the opportunist. Carl Jung posited that opportunists endure what he termed psychological parasitism, environment for your expression, attentively consider your viewpoints, and interact thoughtfully with your concepts, even amidst differing opinions. Conversely, an individual who harbors animosity will struggle to extend this fundamental courtesy. They may interrupt you abruptly, steering discussions away from the subjects you bring up, or displaying clear disinterest while you are speaking. Even more telling is their response when confronted about this behavior. An individual who holds you in esteem is likely to express remorse and seek to enhance their conduct, whereas one harboring adverse sentiments may react defensively, reject accountability for their actions, or even attribute the issue to your perceived lack of engagement. Jung would interpret this as an implicit endeavor to assert dominance and manipulate the narrative. By interrupting, they are effectively conveying that your thoughts and perspectives hold less significance than their own identity surrounding them. The sensation of losing them evokes profound emotions, akin to a profound disconnection, yet that absence is grace concealed. Suffering embodies the essence of the emotions that you have contemplated for decades, eschewing the sorrow you concealed within, the shame you have dulled with busyness, affirmation of the solitude you concealed. With ambition, everything ultimately circles back to impose consequences upon you, yet ultimately to attain recognition. Perceived to be, Carl Jung stated, there is no arrival at awareness devoid of suffering. And now you comprehend that the process of awakening is not merely about transcending suffering. It is regarding the process of acclimating oneself to exist within it without, to experience it without retreating, observe it without aligning oneself with it. You come to understand that the injury is not the adversary, it serves as the portal and traversing. Through it necessitates all that you possess. The virtue of patience, the grace of humility, the integrity of honesty. This discomfort seeks not merely to, it seeks to be transformed. This desire must be acknowledged, is the profound endeavor of the enlightened spirit. to transform suffering into understanding. Gather the fragmented remnants of your past, the self, and shape it into something. The entirety of something sacred becomes apparent as you start to perceive. Your tears do not signify weakness. Are saltwater baptisms a practice you begin to explore? Comprehend that your quivering is not it serves as a testament to the condition of your heart. No longer devoid of sensation, that you are aware of the entirety of human experience, and that vitality, though it may bring discomfort, is revered. The discomfort heightens your awareness. Perceive the world with greater clarity now. The allure found within the smile of an unfamiliar face, a poignant tragedy. Amidst the throngs of a bustling thoroughfare, a concealed yearning persists. In every dialogue, one perceives the shared suffering of humanity as though it were your own, as it signifies a profound realization. Deconstructs the facade of division. One starts to grasp the nature of one's suffering is not isolated. It embodies archetypal qualities. It is the anguish of generations, the legacy endured, the unarticulated wounds of your heritage, the overlooked trauma of your culture, lamentations of the shared psyche. And when you experience it, you are not merely. The process of self-healing is underway. This represents the weight carried by those who have attained enlightenment, an emotional capacity that extends beyond personal burdens, grief, and yet to persist in the choice of love. Opt to manifest, to continue opting to reveal, persisting despite the pain, particularly in those moments when it is most challenging, causes pain, as it signifies the awakened individual, not the lack of, the experience of suffering coupled with the capacity to endure it. With elegance, you commence to present your suffering. To a higher purpose you compose, you illustrate. You vocalize, you articulate, not as a means of evasion. Injured, yet compelled to articulate it, to shape it into existence, to pay tribute to its significance. This is what it entails, transforming into a conduit, a connection, accompanied by the presence of candles and inscriptions rendered in gold. It appears lamenting upon the ground in the stillness of midnight, appears to be a decision to embrace isolation when one seemed to seek diversion. It appears softly. You may observe the utilization of expressions, such as I was mentioning previously, following the introduction of a concept, or the use of their own shadows. Grab's behavior repeatedly reflects a deficiency in respect, support, or goodwill towards you. I appreciate your engagement with this video. If you found this information beneficial, kindly consider liking and subscribing for additional insights into the complexities of human behavior and the cultivation of healthier relationships. We invite you to contribute your reflections and insights in the comment section below. Furthermore, it is essential to acknowledge that you are worthy of connections characterized by authentic support and mutual respect. According to Carl Jung's psychological insights, these 8 indicators will assist in recognizing individuals who harbor hidden animosity towards you. May wish to observe your shortcomings. One indication is their consistent lack of support for your achievements. When it is something indestructible, the essence, and that self, not the lyrical thrive. Insight can take hold where affection can flourish. This represents the intricate transformation of suffering, not to circumvent it, yet to engage with it completely, to allow. It encourages you to allow it to reshape your being from within and as you proceed. Amidst the flames, one ceases to inquire. When will this come to a conclusion? And commence inquiring, what is this imparting knowledge to me? That transition represents the inception of your expertise, not expertise, surpassing not others, but rather your own limitations. One's personal suffering is integral to one's transformation, for it is through this process that growth occurs. You have come to the understanding that this trajectory was never intended to be devoid of discomfort. It was intended to be cleansing, and within that cleansing, An ancient force stirs, something profound. Perpetual rise by mere chance. One may observe acquaintances unexpectedly arranging activities without prior notification, despite one's usual individual repeatedly neglects to acknowledge your presence. It suggests a deliberate choice rather than mere oversight. Individuals of this type engage in rivalry with you across all aspects, although a certain degree of competition can serve as a source of motivation. It is essential to distinguish between amicable rivalry and an individual who transforms every interaction into a contest due to underlying feelings of resentment. Jung posited that an overabundance of competitiveness often conceals profound insecurities and animosities. When an individual engages in competition with you across a wide array of domains, from professional accomplishments to personal achievements, social media interactions, or even inconsequential issues such as parking spaces, they are disclosing an intrinsic desire to establish their own superiority. This behavior emerges when discussions invariably transform into chances for them to surpass your experiences. For instance, if you share a vacation anecdote, they promptly counter with elaborate accounts of their own more extravagant, of obscurity aware. Furthermore, your obscurity is not merely a shadow. It embodies sorrow and evokes longing. It encompasses all the unfulfilled requirements that pertain to the spiritual realm, overcoming attempts to obliterate through affirmations and vision boards. However, healing cannot be achieved through transcending into illumination. You find restoration through the act of ambulation. Return to your physical form, the one that embraced all your unexpressed realities. You mend through attending to the sorrow that remains indifferent. The manner in which you articulate your healing process is quite profound. Allowing the youthful spirit to express itself in a fervent manner, the mature iteration of oneself learns to restrain. One achieves healing through the process of attaining a sufficient sense of who and understanding to relinquish the illusion that you are expected to possess complete understanding. Jung frequently articulated the tumult at the process that comes before individuation. Achieving completeness, he understood that prior stoppable, permitting oneself to acknowledge that lucidity at times, it evokes a sense of void. Permitting oneself to engage with the rawness, not as an issue to be addressed, but as an existence to encounter. Due to a certain factor within that unrefined essence resides a vibrant existence. An ancient concept that you have rendered mute each instance you pretended to be well, and when you ultimately encounter it devoid of shame, with a sense of caution, yet with deep respect, you understand that you're not merely restoring, that the discomfort accompanying your awakening signifies a process of healing. The persistent discomfort that lingered the awakening merely unveiled it. The void, the sorrow, the absence of identity, none of this is novel. It has merely been obscured, encoded, transmitted from your formative. They deplete not only your resources, but also your intrinsic sense of self. However, the most crucial, who has transcended, desires anything. They may interrupt you abruptly, steering discussions away from the subjects you bring up, or displaying clear disinterest while you are speaking. Even more telling is their response when confronted about this behavior. An individual who holds you in esteem is likely to express remorse and seek to enhance their conduct, whereas one harboring adverse sentiments may react defensively, reject accountability for their actions, or even attribute the issue to your perceived lack of engagement. Jung would interpret this as an implicit endeavor to assert dominance and manipulate the narrative. By interrupting, they are effectively conveying that your thoughts and perspectives hold less significance than their own, or perhaps. I sincerely appreciate your presence during this exploration. Should you find merit in today's discourse, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and share this video with individuals who may derive benefit from it. What if I were to inform you that Carl Jung uncovered insights regarding human nature that could potentially spare you years of inefficiency. Vitality and emotional turmoil allow me to convey a thought of considerable depth. Assisting others is inherently ingrained in our nature. However, a crucial insight often overlooked is that, as Carl Jung explored extensively, not all individuals who seek assistance genuinely desire it. You engage in listening more than. Your speech is a reflection of your acquired knowledge. At times, excruciatingly, that uninvited. Wisdom can be perceived as a nuanced mechanism of influence. Control stands in stark opposition to awakening. Thus you relinquish the necessity to exist as. Indeed, one relinquishes the yearning to exist. Unique, you cease your efforts to become the beacon and instead transform into the serene, an area that accommodates the presence of others to discover their own path. You cease to require. Captivate, the transcendent, and commence your existence as. If the divine permeates all aspects of existence, including the elements that provoke your irritation, also evoke a sense of fear within you, or activate your injuries, encompassing the individual. While the sacred holds significance, it does not imply superiority over others. Emerges in their own era, some via experiencing hardship, yet finding solace in grace, via scientific inquiry, and others through unwavering commitment. And none of them are incorrect. When you genuinely rouse you will find that the necessity dissipates. To inspire others, you personify illumination. Rather than delivering a sermon, you engage in service. Rather than preserving, you engage in listening more than. Your speech is a reflection of your acquired knowledge. At times, excruciatingly, that uninvited. Wisdom can be perceived as a nuanced mechanism of influence. Control stands in stark opposition to awakening. Thus you relinquish the necessity to exist as. Indeed, one relinquishes the yearning to exist. Unique, you cease your efforts to become the beacon and instead transform into the serene, an area that accommodates the presence of others to discover their own path. You cease to require. Captivate, the transcendent, and commence your existence as. If the divine permeates all aspects of existence, including their cognitive foundation, the revelations that Jung encountered regarding this particular type are likely to astonish you. These individuals seem less interested in solutions and more in guarantees. Carl Jung's exploration of the human psyche reveals that chronic complainers often find themselves in a state he termed psychological stagnation. They have effectively made complaining their primary occupation. Even if one were to move mountains for them, they would likely find fault with the view. Jung posited that this behavior transcends mere negativity. It serves as a defense mechanism, shielding them from growth, change, and the acceptance of responsibility for their own lives. The presumptuous individual Carl Jung posited that entitlement manifests as a psychological disorder cloaked in the guise of confidence. Individuals exhibiting this trait do not seek assistance. Rather, they assertively demand it, as though the universe is indebted to them. However, Jung's revelations fundamentally altered our comprehension of entitlement. Individuals failed to cultivate what he other reason. One starts to recognize their own humanity. Similarly, and in undertaking this action, you dispel the ultimate deception that, of self-discovery. As you evolve, you start to place your confidence for the consistent deceiver. Carl Jung made a revelation regarding falsehood into the wisdom inherent in your own recovery. Begin to comprehend that substance that will transform your perception of deception indefinitely. Suffering is not the antithesis of advancement, is, in fact. Jung posited that habitual deceivers do not merely mislead advancement as you consistently embrace the discomfort rather than for others. They engage in self-deception to such an extent that they become detached, forsaking your own essence. You reclaim an aspect of your essence with each from reality. They construct what Jung referred to as false personas, entirely founded on fabrication, as per Carl Jung's insights. These individuals become so ensnared in their intricate fabrications that they can no longer discern reality from illusion. When one attempts to assist based on their narratives, the endeavor does not aid a genuine individual, but rather a construct of their own making. Jung elucidated that this particular form of psychological dysfunction is exceedingly challenging to remedy, as the individual must first confront reality, something they have conditioned themselves to evade. Type 5, the opportunist. Carl Jung posited to acknowledge that you are worthy of connections characterized by authentic support and mutual respect. According to Carl Jung's psychological insights, these 8 indicators will assist in recognizing individuals who harbor hidden animosity towards you. May wish to observe your shortcomings. One indication is their consistent lack of support for your achievements. When an individual truly values your presence, they commemorate your achievements with a fervor akin to their own, demonstrating enthusiasm, inquiring thoughtfully, and conveying sincere joy for your accomplishments. Nevertheless, individuals who harbor concealed animosity are frequently those who are nearest to you. The theatrical pursuer. Jung posited that certain individuals develop an addiction to chaos, as it is the sole moment they experience a genuine sense of vitality. He termed this phenomenon neurotic excitement dependency. However, Carl Jung's findings on those who seek drama reveal and these individuals are not mere victims of chaos. Rather, they are its architects. They unwittingly orchestrate one crisis after another, as psychological turbulence has evolved into their preferred stimulant. Carl Jung articulated that assisting an individual who seeks drama resembles the endeavor of pacifying a tempest that they are deliberately conjuring. It is futile to instill tranquility in someone who is ensnared in conflict, particularly when that conflict is directed inwardly. Type 7, the seeker. Carl Jung made an insightful observation regarding takers that will profoundly alter your perspective on one-sided relationships. Jung uncovered that takers are not merely selfish, they're psychologically deficient. According to Carl Jung, they have failed to cultivate what he referred to as the reciprocity function, the fundamental human capacity to engage in a balance that those who take often emerge from a state of psychological deprivation, perpetually yearning, perpetually unfulfilled, and perpetually in search of more. Yet, herein lies a profound irony. Jung revealed that the more one offers, the more they seem to drain. They resemble psychological voids, absorbing all that surrounds them while contributing nothing in return. Individuals may express a sense of entrapment within their shadow selves, engaging in actions devoid of conscience and gratitude. The archetype of the manipulator, as delineated by Carl Jung, reveals a profound insight into human nature. Jung posits that manipulators seek not merely assistance, but rather a psychological capitulation. He identifies this behavior as stemming from what he terms the power complex, an unconscious impetus to dominate and exert control over others. Carl Jung elucidated that manipulators function as psychological predators, preying upon the guilt, empathy, and kindness of others. They do not perceive kindness as a virtue. That visibility exists, disorienting. It resembles traversing through the residence you have occupied for an extended period and unexpectedly coming to the awareness that each space is occupied, utilizing the furnishings of another individual, the thoughts of others, the recollections of another. The furniture must be repositioned in relation to the walls, repainted, and at last, you are compelled to make a decision. What is appropriate and what is not? Reconstruction proves to be a taxing endeavor due to its inherent complexities, necessitates an encounter with your own self for the first occasion, and to acknowledge that you have never, indeed, there is a lack of genuine transcends mere lightness and bliss, and everlasting tranquility, yet instead the utmost, the most unvarnished form of truth you will ever experience. It involves confronting each falsehood you have repeatedly assumed with the intent to surpass or displace them. This conduct unveils profound animosity and jealousy. One may observe that this individual begins to emulate your interests, stylistic preferences, or verbal expressions soon after your initial introduction. Instead of recognizing your impact, they portray these aspects as if they were their own inception, frequently asserting a greater authenticity or proficiency in your domain. For instance, following your introduction of a new hobby, they abruptly immerse themselves in the same pursuit, often equipped with costly tools or networks unavailable to you. Alternatively, they may echo your distinctive viewpoints to others, presenting them as their original insights, subtly implying that they can surpass your capabilities. Jung posits that this arises from as the individuals who cause you pain need not be a part of your life. Maintain perpetual access to an individual who is endeavoring to diminish your brilliance is not advisable. Disregarding foster a sense of spiritual security. Individuals of similar intellect, even if it is merely a YouTube educator in an online collective, the soul companion who perceives you seeks individuals who will elevate your frequency rather than deplete it. One need not undergo a process of healing in solitude. The greater the duration of your engagement with individuals, comprehend the emergence of synchronicities as they commence to unfold. Overwhelm your existence. Yet instead of solace, they disturb you. They serve as a reminder. The cosmos observes and attunes itself to our existence, engaging in discourse, and you find yourself uncertain. It seems as though your existence is no longer under your sole possession, as though you are being compelled by an invisible influence akin to a marionette whose threads are presently being guided by the essence rather than the self-interest, and the ego exhibits resistance. It succumbs to panic and clutches tightly for assurance, for regularity, for all matters that has the potential to reinstate the semblance of authority. However, control is the initial victim of the emergence, and in its stead, you find yourself abandoned with silence, not a tranquil nature, but rather an overwhelming sort of quiet that resonances that compel you to listen to your own internal turmoil. You may attempt to suppress it, engage in it, conceal it beneath a veil of diversions, yet nothing remains effective for an extended period. As the self begins to awaken, there is no turning back. It seeks your entirety. It desires you completely. It is truthful, and it will incinerate all within. Its trajectory continues until you cease to oppose and begin. As you engage in attentive listening, it becomes apparent that confusion does not signify defeat, but rather an essential cleansing akin to a fever that incinerates. Consume the affliction with an intensity akin to a raging inferno. Removes decayed timber from the woodland. Confusion represents the realm in which you're previous. The dissolution of identity paves the way for the emergence of your authentic self to establish itself. And within that realm, however, it may seem as though you are adrift. In reality, you are not. The process of renewal, the subsequent shadow aspect of awakening, represents a form of disconnection, not the superficial isolation of a missed call or a vacant weekend, yet a profound detachment from all that surrounds, and all those you previously regarded as familiar. It commences in a nuanced manner. You discover yourself, refraining from engaging in discussions that previously experienced a vibrant atmosphere reminiscent of the theater. Gather around tables brimming with mirth and narratives, yet an inner sensation stirs within you. Distant and unblemished, the subjects resonate. The viewpoints appear to be premeditated and lacking in authenticity. The connection that once felt effortless, it now appears contrived. This is not a matter of arrogance. Rather, It is something else entirely. Neither resentment nor despondency. It is simply awareness reveals what often eludes perception. Barriers you are perceiving the silent apprehension. Underneath the language, one observes the manner in which individuals evade their own stillness through occupying each instant with sound you. It is impossible to overlook it now. The pretense can no longer be maintained. Thus, one finds oneself withdrawing not due to assessment, yet driven by necessity. Self-preservation arises from the essence of your being, commences to articulate the magnitude of existence, transforms into an intolerable state, fostering a deep yearning for solitude. The manner in which an individual submerged in water yearns for oxygen. However, within that solitude, one experiences the profound ache of the lack of belonging, the lack of comprehension regarding the lack of. The experience of genuine recognition presents a fascinating contradiction. An awakening occurs as you deepen your connection to existence, yet experience a greater sense of disconnection from the world reveals the sacred in all things, yet find yourself unable to articulate it to others. You experience an affection for humankind, yet a challenge to exist. This isolation is experienced even in the presence of others. Crucible, it is the untamed expanse that removes your desire to be part of a group that fails to comprehend your language. It is within this revered the solitude in which the seeds of your the tribe commences to emerge, albeit not with haste. Effortlessly yet naturally, you start to draw in individuals who perceive with the identical eyes that engage in attentive listening. Profound individuals who do not request you to diminish and until that time, you acquire the knowledge to embrace your solitude. It is a valuable opportunity for personal growth. To embrace the stillness and allow it to impart wisdom. Silence, when revered, transforms into a refuge, and within that refuge you commence the process of recollecting that disconnection is not. Exile represents a form of redirection. It embodies a distinct path forward. The essence embarks upon a journey when it can no longer inhale the spaces you previously designated. In the solitude of home, the pangs of loneliness resonate deeply. It also initiates a process that creates space for a novel, a connection that is fundamentally grounded in essence. Not roles, but rather a creation rooted in authenticity. A sense of familiarity that does not impose any demands. Clarification yet provides existence in that. A connection of this nature is indeed deserving of patience, as it transcends mere occupancy of the space. It pays tribute to the third shadowy aspect of awakening is a profound suffering, not merely a superficial discomfort, not the ephemeral pang of rejection or the pain of an unfulfilled commitment, yet the unrefined, intense existential anguish of being stripped bare unfolds from within. This anguish does not arise from an error occurring. It originates from the inception of all things. To attain correctness is to encounter a paradox, as your essence harmonizes with veracity in every moment. Aspects of your existence that remain outside, the resonance begins to fracture. Relationships founded on artifice commence to the position sought from. Insecurity starts to stifle aspirations. Ideas appropriated from others start to fade away, and it pains not due to any genuine yours, yet due to the manner in which you enveloped the essence of identity surrounding them. The sensation of losing them evokes profound emotions, akin to a profound disconnection, yet that absence is grace concealed. Suffering embodies the essence of the spirit. Scalpel, it excises that which cannot accompany you into the subsequent chapter, and although it results in profound injury, yet it also results in pure, alert, unadorned, vibrant. One commences to experience emotions that you have contemplated for decades, eschewing the sorrow you concealed within, the shame you have dulled with busyness, Affirmation of the solitude you concealed. With ambition, everything ultimately circles back to impose consequences upon you, yet ultimately to attain recognition. Perceived to be, Carl Jung stated, there is no arrival at awareness devoid of suffering. And now you comprehend that the process of awakening is not merely about transcending suffering. It is regarding the process of acclimating oneself to exist within it without